And without further ado, I am going to introduce Kate Murphy. We're so excited to be introduced to her. She has an incredible resume and some great skill set, and we're so stoked to find a confident, strong woman who is also a rock star motorcycle mechanic. So she's going to tell you a little bit about herself and then launch into a presentation. As always, drop your questions in the chat. We're saving an extra chunk of time for Q&A because this is definitely the kind of stuff that we want to answer, take the time to answer your specific questions about. So, Kate, welcome to Trailside. Thanks for being here with us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that great introduction. Wow, I'm excited to hear me too. Um, like it says here, I have been riding for 26 years, wrenching for almost all of them because I started out on a crappy little motorcycle, just like probably most of us did. Um, I know it says on the trail, but this is really broadly applicable to all motorcycles. So if you ride anything, I know, ADV bikes, and, no shame if you ride those on the street, so do I. So hopefully you will take at least one or two tips away from this, or at least a little bit more confidence about working on your own motorcycle and kind of knowing that you can tackle pretty much anything that comes along. I write for ADV Rider. I have 6 motorcycles and a trike in the stable right now. I am the one that maintains them all for myself and my fiance. Um, I am big on self-reliance. I want to make sure that the folks around me know that while I'm here and I can fix your bike for you, I'd really prefer to teach you how to fix your own bike. I'm not going to read the slides to you. The presentation is being recorded. You can always go back and reread everything, go over everything that we've gone over. Um, the biggie here is I would like to reframe what you think about motorcycle mechanics. Space aliens did not come down from the sky and give us all motorcycles that were fully formed. Um, the people who design, assemble, and maintain motorcycles are no different from you. I didn't grow up in a mechanic household. I am fully self-taught. Um, and this is your education. And education is expensive, and I understand that, but it's expensive no matter how you acquire it. So you can pay for classes, you can make mistakes, time, money, parts. It's all worth it. So you're going to hear me say this a ton that the best cure is prevention. Here's a close up of my KLR with a snapped clutch cable because I was paying attention to the wrong end of that cable. We all look at the cables on the bar ends of the bike. We're looking at, you slide that little rubber thing back and you make sure that your cable isn't frayed. But I wasn't paying any attention to the engine side. So this is the snapped cable on the engine side. The big deal here is to understand your own motorcycle. So when you're riding your bike, when you're fixing your bike, understand how it behaves, how it works. And when you're maintaining your bike at home, the best thing to do is use that tool roll that you're going to use out on the road at home while you're fixing your bike. And immediately you'll see that you're missing a couple of tools that you're going to need to do a certain job. LED light kit, that's a good one. Yep, thanks for that comment. Um, use your tool roll and understand what's missing. So again, motorcycles are designed, built, and repaired by humans, and you are capable of doing that. YouTube is your friend. I absolutely endorse watching YouTube, but watch 3 videos because the first person that you watch might be an idiot, and you want to make sure that all 3 people are saying the same thing. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos that I thought were going to help me out, but it was just one person breaking their own motorcycle over and over again. So watch 3 videos of the same job. That'll help you quite a lot. Next slide.
I love that.
Keep track of your maintenance. This is a biggie. Your motorcycle owner's manual, and I have one right here. This is for a Honda. Your motorcycle owner's manual will have a schedule, and you can see that in your owner's manual, and it'll tell you at what mileage you need to change your oil or inspect your chain and sprocket or change your air filter. These will change if you're riding for riding conditions. Like if you're riding in dusty, dirty conditions, you're going to want to change that air filter or clean it if it's a foam type a little bit more often. But that's your major maintenance schedule. Ask your mom. That's your motorcycle owner's manual. Your mom will tell you when you need to work on your bike. Uh,
I will chime in too here,
yeah,
Kate.
yeah,
Like if you buy a used bike and you don't have like a freshly printed owner's manual, it's always available in PDF version.
yeah,
I always keep mine on my phone just so
yeah.
that if I don't have it on my bike when I'm out riding, I've got a backup and I keep that manual with me at all times. And
You know, what's fantastic too is, and this is something that Facebook is really good for. Facebook has groups of specific for specific make and model of bike. And in the file section of those groups, you can 9 times out of 10 find the shop manual, not just the owner's manual, but the shop manual for your bike. So I have every single shop manual for every motorcycle I own in the files section of my Google Drive, which is and downloaded to my cell phone, so that if I'm out on the road and something happens, I can look it up in that. Sure, it's a 300 and something page document, but hey, it's got everything in there that I'm going to need.
I love that. All right, you ready for the next slide?
Right? Yep. This is a biggie, isolating a problem. So always start with whatever you touched last. If you worked on your own motorcycle and you're taking it on a shakedown ride, whatever you touched last might be the thing that's new. The diagnosis starts while you're rolling and you notice something new. And this is another thing, you're going to hear me say this over and over and over again, but it is know your own motorcycle and know when something changes. So you see, this is actually a picture of my hands holding that should be the backing of a brake pad, but this is my friend's KLR. And that he rode that bike until that brake was done. And so it was caliper fingers against the brake disc there. So diagnosis starts when you're rolling along and something changes. What you smell probably isn't your bike unless you're at a stop, but it might be the person in front of you. Next slide. First step, don't panic. Second step is try to figure out where the noise is coming from. So the best way to do that is to isolate the problem by pulling in your clutch and seeing if the noise keeps going as the bike rolls. That means it's not engine related. If you rev the bike a little bit while the engine is disengaged, keep the clutch in, rev the engine, and see if you can isolate that noise to be, is it road speed or is it engine speed? Does it keep up with the engine as you rev it, or does it change when you're going faster or slower? Is the bike behaving any differently? Do you need to pull over immediately? So if you have a flat tire, that's a pretty common one. You'll get to understand how your bike reacts to these things. And certainly you don't need to know how to fix everything that happens to you on the road. But knowing what it is a great first step. And then knowing how to get that dead bike rolling, even if it's just to a paved road, will help a lot. So you
I love
can,
that.
yeah,
Keep going, keep going. You got
yeah,
more.
yeah. So if your brakes froze up, so this happened to me just a couple of weeks ago. My master cylinder was clogged, my return was clogged, so my brakes froze up. But what I had to do was pull over and crack the bleeder open, and that let the brakes go. And then I could ride the bike back home, but not use the back brake because it would just lock right back up again. If you have your flat tire repair kit, that's that, you know, if you're familiar with the way your bike handles when it has a flat tire, then you'll immediately know that you'll be able to fix that. Um, don't be afraid to brainstorm. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You're probably not riding alone. So somebody else that's riding with you may have had that same question. And this is where comms help quite a lot. So you can say over the comm, hey, I'm having a problem with my bike. Hey, something doesn't feel right. And describe the problem. If you've already isolated it, then the people that you're riding with can help you to kind of brainstorm and figure out what exactly is wrong. And then they can also help you to pull over in a safe place.
I
Next
love
slide.
that. We talk a lot on Trailside about like trusting your gut in
Yeah.
situations. And
Yeah.
I feel like that plays so strongly into mechanical stuff. Like you've ridden your bike more than anybody else, most likely. You've spent more time on it. And so something feels funny. Don't be like, no, it's fine. Take the time to pull over and be safe. And even
Definitely. Definitely.
if it feels just a little bit funny, a little bit weird, and you're changing lanes and it still sounds funny, like it's just really like listen to your instincts. Like you don't have to be a mechanic to have your spidey senses go off about stuff like this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's called mechanical sympathy. Yeah. And it
Ooh.
can be learned. So this is just a quickie, like this is what we're going to go over in the next few slides. Tire repair, loose things. Um, it really all boils down to know your bike, knowing what you're comfortable tackling out on the road, and knowing really the important part is knowing where you're going to say F it, right? Um, there comes a time for all of us, myself included, when I know when I'm beat. And I know that this isn't something that I either have the tools or the time or the know how to fix. Um, if it's not running, you don't have a lot to lose. So digging in is really a valid option no matter what. Roadside assistance is a good option, and I highly recommend it. But if you have the tools and the know-how, you're going to get yourself off the road quite a lot faster than that roadside assistance is going to show up. Next slide. So here is tire repair. Note that this is something you need to calculate your own risk when it comes to plugging a tire. I have ridden plug tires to end of life, but that doesn't mean you should. You'll need to calculate your own risk. You need to know how to plug a tire. Um, you need to know how to patch a tube if you're going to ride a tube tire bike off road, and you're certainly going to need to know your bike and know whether it has tube tires or tubeless tires and know which patch kit you need. Patch kits are not expensive. I'm just going to do a little show and tell. This is my patch kit right here. Um, I don't know if I want to throw a link in there, but this is, it's North Shore Labs safety seal made in Peabody, Mass. And I love this because it has metal handles. I've broken a lot of tire tools. So um, that's this one. It's a string plug type patch kit. The important part here is I bet everybody who's ever used a string plug has opened up their kit to find that tube of rubber cement that is dry and useless. And this stuff does not dry out. So this is their special lube. Proper lubrication is the key to life. Knowing your tire is patched is very important. I treat every plug in a tire as a one reduction in the speed rating of that tire. Some people need to replace that tire to feel comfortable. That's absolutely valid, and you need to do what makes you comfortable. Please know that um, your tire patch is useless without being able to replace the air. So certainly a compressor is a good idea too. They make compressors, really any of them, that are USB chargeable and they'll work without having to plug it into the bike. I have one that plugs into an SAE plug on my bike. So that's awesome. Next slide. Here's where I'm going to say again, knowing your bike is key. So I rode a KLR for a decade, and I know that KLRs are pretty good at shedding bolts. They're really good at loosening stuff up. Blue Loctite is your friend. If you know that your bike has these common problems, then it's a really good idea to do a walk around on your bike to every once in a while to make sure that all those fasteners are still there and that they're tight. Understand too that just putting your hand on the fastener isn't going to tell you anything. If you try to turn it with your fingers and it doesn't turn, that doesn't tell you anything. You need to put a tool on the fasteners to make sure that they're tight. Uh, Also, cotter pins and pliers. If you need to make a quick fix on the road, cotter pins are way better than zip ties when it comes to shear force. Zip ties will shear in a second. I'm sure you've all seen it. Cotter pins will help. Take pictures as you go because as you're on the side of the road taking stuff apart, You might not remember where everything goes because we are all in a sort of a heightened emotional state, being on the side of the road, kind of, maybe there's traffic or maybe it's about to get dark, but it's really important to put that bike together the way that it came apart. So keep track of everything and take pictures.
Love that. I will also lay down some kind of a cloth or some kind of, if I'm
Yeah,
working on the side of the road, like I'll throw down a little tarp or one of my shop rags that I keep in my toolkit, and
yep,
I'll line my bolts on the side of the bike in the order that I put them back in so that I can work in reverse. Just because, I mean, how many times have you lost a nut to like a gravel pile on the
right.
side of the road or
Yeah. So
in your backyard?
Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight has a lot of really cheap stuff, cheap in many ways, but a, a tasteful selection of cotter pins will cost you maybe $4 there, and it's really worth it.
Love it. Every girl needs a good set of cotter pins, doesn't she? And spare fuses.
Damn right. Yep. This is the only slide that I'm going to ask you to study. Uh, we all know that our motorcycles, with very few exceptions, our motorcycles take 12-volt batteries. And you all think that 12 volts is 12 volts, but you have to understand that 12 volts, 12.0 isn't really a charged battery. You'll see the 12.06 here is about 50%. So when your 12-volt battery reads 12 volts, that's a time to be worried. So these this is my travel multimeter. And this is my favorite thing ever. So it comes in its own little case so the wires don't go anywhere. And I can pack this into a tank bag or whatever, pull the wires out, test a battery. Um, that state of charge chart that we just looked at, you should get in the habit of putting a multimeter on your battery with some regularity so that you know your own motorcycle. This is a 310 GS that's behind me, and these are notorious for overcharging their batteries. So this thing will run about 14.6 when it's at idle, which is a little bit much, but I'm waiting for the for the battery to die before I replace it. There are some bikes, most bikes, that will run between 12.8 and 13.5 um, at idle. So that's your state of charge. If your battery has gone dead, and by dead I mean below 11 volts, that means that there is an internal damage and you should not ride with that battery anymore. You may be able to jump it and you may be able to get it to hold a charge for a couple of rides. It might lull you into complacency for maybe 5 or 6 rides, but it's going to die on you, and it's going to die on you at a bad moment. So if you've got a dead battery, just plan on replacing it. Next slide.
I feel like this is like a particularly important
Yeah.
time for batteries because winter,
Yes.
you leave it in the garage, it gets
Yep.
really cold. And
Yep.
I feel like, is it true, Kate? Like, I feel like the lead acid batteries are more susceptible to cold and more finicky than like a lithium battery. Do you have
It's
any?
actually the other way around.
Is it okay?
Lithium batteries are a little bit cranky. No pun intended, when it comes to cold weather. Um, uh, Generally, AGM batteries are more robust when it comes to cold weather, but lithium batteries hold a charge longer. So if you
Ah,
store your yeah, so if you store your motorcycle inside a heated garage, if it's climate controlled, then your lithium battery will be fine. If you store your bike in a shed, then your lithium battery, you might want to just turn the key and let it sit there for a couple of minutes. Really, it's against everything I've ever known about batteries, but lithium batteries need to warm up before they'll put out their full cold crank amps. But yeah, you're right. This time of year is really tough for batteries, especially when you haven't taken it out of the bike and haven't kept it on a trickle charger. So many people I see online, all over Reddit, why is my battery dead? Well, it's because you parked it in April, or rather, you parked it in November and now it's April. And you didn't do a thing to it in between, and now they're dead. So, yeah.
awesome. Awesome. onto the
Yep.
chain.
Check your chain. So, chain adjustment is not something you should be doing on a day ride. If you need to adjust your chain on a day ride, you need a new chain. If your chain is rusty or stretched, if you haven't replaced it in more than 18,000 miles, if it's making jangly noises, note that chains can be fine, sound fine, look okay, but the moment they start making weird noises, they get really bad really fast. So we're just gonna, I'm gonna roll my camera over here and we're gonna look down. Can you see that okay? And I'm gonna run the camera. Okay, so you can see this chain right here, and I'm gonna, this this right here, if you can pull the chain off, I'm pulling it toward me. If you can pull your chain off the back of your sprocket, if you can see daylight between the sprocket and the chain, that means it's time to replace the chain. You should put your bike up on a center stand and try to do this. Roll it around and do this at several positions around the chain because chains don't stretch uniformly. So you can have tight spots and loose spots. You can also feel that while you're rolling along. If you feel like the bike is starting to surge, that means your chain is stretched out and needs to be replaced. So that's your chain tip for the day.
I love that. Suzanne just dropped something into the chat here about comparison pictures. And Suzanne, I assume you're asking about chains and sprockets and like what looks good, what doesn't look good. Um, and I would love to just include a little blog post about that because there's so many weird ways that sprockets can wear and so many tells on when your chain is going bad just from a visual inspection. I think it'd be fun to put that in a blog post. But if you pull up a picture of what your rear sprocket or front sprocket is supposed to look like and note the tooth shape of each one of those little sprocket teeth, and if yours looks hooked or pointy or sharp or dull or anything
Sharp tooth.
other than normal wear around those teeth, that's going to be time to maybe start thinking about swapping out that chain and sprocket set.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a
Love
big
it.
there.
If your sprocket looks like this, it's time it's
It's
time for a
way
swap.
past.
I love it. Awesome.
So chain maintenance, generally, I recommend that you should lube your chain every other gas fill up. And that's an easy way to remember it because manufacturers suggest like right around 500 miles. So every other gas fill up on a lot of bikes, well, GSA owners need not apply, both because you have 9-gallon gas tanks and because you're shaft drive. So everything else right around two fill-ups. What I use when I'm traveling is 90 weight gear oil. I put it in a tiny little bottle. It's actually a contact solution bottle that I've emptied out and I squeeze it and suck gear oil into it and carry that because it's tiny. You only need a few drops at a time and it's super easy to carry with you. I oil my chain at the end of a day when it's warm and that way it stays on the chain and it doesn't fling off while I'm riding. I oil the inside of the chain so that centrifugal force pulls that oil into the outside of the chain.
I love that.
Uh,
Um, I don't know if we mentioned, but Olivia just dropped our She ADV T clocks document. It's
awesome.
a free download. It's a PDF. It's a cute, fun way to go through all the different checkpoints on your bike. We always recommend going through all of those prior to every ride. There's your macro level things, and then it breaks it down into smaller ones. So it's a free download. You can click that link and grab the PDF, print it out. There's a little tear sheet that you can put in your tank bag if you want to as well. But yeah, the T clocks,
Yeah,
it's
I love
we
it.
used the MSF T clocks as a template for this, but it's got all that information in there. And it's just those touch points to go through, and it just helps you know your motorcycle better. Like if you know your motorcycle when it's healthy, it's going to be a lot easier to know it when it is having an issue. So,
Somebody I don't mean to run away, but somebody in the comments just mentioned this. And this is a really good one too. This is a Motion Pro slack setter tool, and it's fantastic for when if you don't want to get down on the ground. It tells you what your chain slack is. So you put this end up against your swing arm and you put your chain inside this one, and you move your chain around. There's instructions. It's more comprehensive than this, but this thing is a lifesaver.
I love
Goodness.
that. Do you work it up off the swing arm or down below the swing arm?
Below the swing arm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's a snazzy little tool. And I do love that. Yeah.
that's
Thanks for
awesome.
that.
And is that the kind of tool you would just keep at home in your garage, or do you keep
Yep.
that on your bike with you as you're traveling?
I generally don't adjust my chain while I'm traveling. If I think I need to adjust my chain while I'm traveling, I will replace it before I go. Because yeah.
Perfect.
So
All
final
right.
drive. Chain shaft belt. Shaft drive is empty out your gear oil from your shaft drive and make sure that it isn't super metallic. That should be done according to your schedule. I think I also ride a Super Tenere, and that one is every 10,000 miles, I want to say. But I do it every other oil change just because, you know, because why not? There's no harm in replacing your final drive. Belt final drive, your maintenance is replacing the belt. That's kind of a pain in the butt because you have to take the swing arm off to do it because they are endless. So those are your choices, and that's something that you'll want to consider before you buy the motorcycle is chain, belt, shaft.
Huge.
If your chain has more than 12,000 miles on it, definitely keep a very close eye on it because that's about the life of a chain. I know that some people get 15, 18, 20,000 miles out of a chain, but that's, again, know your bike and make sure that you know what it does to chains. So,
I'm gonna,
next slide.
okay. Let me get back to the share button. There we go.
So when we worry about overheating, often um, again, it's know your bike. Know how hot your bike runs on a regular basis and know when there are changes to that. If you're riding in a lot of mud, that mud can get tossed up into your radiator, and radiators do not work great when they're caked up with mud. So if you have a means to rinse that off, that's a really important thing to do when you're out on the trail. But know that bike and know how hot it runs on any given uh, surface and in any given situation. There are ways to water-cooled bikes will absolutely let you know when they are overheating because they will have warnings on your dash. Things will happen when that bike overheats. Air-cooled bikes, a little less so, but they're pretty resilient because manufacturers know that air-cooled bike, especially dirt bikes, are going to be put through the ringer. So again, it's all about knowing your bike and knowing when things change. Leaks happen. Um, there are a lot of ways to identify a leak, and there are a lot of leaks that you can safely ignore, especially on older motorcycles, especially when it's just a seep and not a leak, when the front of your engine looks a little damp, but it doesn't look like it's dripping all the way down. That's a valve cover gasket. You can replace it or you can leave it alone. It's probably not going to get much worse. Um, and uh, anything that is just seeping out or looks wet is probably okay to drive. Anything that is actively dripping, you should probably pull over. You'll need to make sure, again, I'm sorry to keep coming back to that, but know your bike, know what's coming out of it, know what your motor oil looks like, know what your coolant looks like, and know how to identify them and tell them apart. Gasoline is pretty easy by the smell, but fork oil, things like that. If it's fork oil has a very distinct smell. So if your fork oil is coming out of your forks and greasing up your front brake, then definitely a problem. I have had that problem and zip tied a rag around my fork to keep the fork oil from going all over my brakes. Finished the 300-mile ride, came home, swapped out my fork, um, my all of my fork internals actually. So next slide.
Ladies, don't forget to drop your next upgrade into the chat, your next bike fix it, just to make sure that we get everybody in there with a chance to win this cruise tools set, since we're speaking about tools here a little bit. And drop your questions in the chat. We're saving extra time for your Q&A. We've got some great questions already in there. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I keep getting, they keep popping up and I keep getting distracted by the
I
questions.
know, I know. There's some good stuff going on in the chat. I love that. I love that.
So you'll see a picture of this guy right here. This is your axle hex nut. So this is a front axle off of a an NC 750. And so this is something, if you're going on a really long trip, this might be something that you want to carry with you because it can't really be replaced. This is how you take the front wheel off of your bike. But again, if you're going on a several weeks long trip and you think you're going to want to adjust your chain or change your tires or things like that, then a tool like this is probably going to you're going to want to have it in your arsenal. Now, I'm just going to show you my tool roll, but also assure you that, like, you see this toolkit behind me, this tool chest. Um, I have it packed full because I've been doing this a long time. But honestly, I started with this, and so you just got to start someplace. And I outgrew that and went into another one, and then I outgrew that and I went into another one. So really, like, the first step is knowing what tools your bike takes. A lot of my bikes are all metric, and this is the toolkit that I use the most, and it's all just metric Allen keys. So I know that there are a lot of bigger BMWs, and those are all lousy with Torx fasteners. But this is my on the road tool roll, and it is a mess, but it just means that I use it all. It used to be bright yellow. So it rolls up and snaps shut and weighs about 15 pounds. But again, JB Weld, electrical tape, Gorilla Glue, cotter pins, zip ties. And zip ties in interesting colors so that you know what's what. Um, pliers, picks. I like these guys. These are grip pliers, and they let you take bolts out with the grips, which is incredible. My only snap-on tool is this screwdriver. I like, again, Harbor Freight. These are all color coded. So when you're on the road, you've got different colors. These are all metric because all my bikes are metric. But start small, start cheap. If the cheap tools break, replace them. If the cheap tools don't break, you've got a great cheap tool. If you take those universal tools with you, then whoever breaks down is going to be able to fix their bike, or you can help someone help you by having the knowledge about your bike, by having the tools that it needs, by having JB Weld, for instance, which is the best wrong tool for the job anywhere. And practice using all of these when you're not in a stressful situation, when you're not on the side of the road with a bike broken down.
If someone was starting to build their tool roll from scratch, like they've got a bike, they're out riding, they're doing the thing, they roll with no tools, what would you suggest that folks start with, other than maybe a small cruise tools kit that somebody can win
Yeah.
and
So
drop their stuff in
in
the
fact,
chat?
that cruise tool kit is pretty fantastic. I have played with them myself. So this, shamefully, I have never even taken this out of the plastic. This is the tool kit that came in my 310 GS. And it really is just a couple of wrenches and like that's where you start, honestly.
Is that going to give you enough stuff to remove a wheel? Like, what do
Nope.
those on bike toolkits give you?
Um, this this is something that everybody always asks. What is that? This is your suspension adjustment, and that's the handle for it, right? Everything else is tiny little tools, 12, 10, 12, 14 open end wrench, and the most common Allen Allen key right here. And that's pretty much it. I recommend a set of metric wrenches. I recommend a set of metric sockets, 3/8" drive and 1/4" drive. Um, and Allen keys or Torx keys, depending on what your bike uses. But start with this, start with this little guy and see how far it gets you. And if you note that you're missing tools, wander over to Harbor Freight, but Harbor Freight is pretty inexpensive, and the stuff in there does break. I have broken a bunch of Harbor Freight tools, but I also use a bunch of Harbor Freight tools. So that's my first go-to, and then when that breaks, I move up to Motion Pro.
Awesome. I love that. Tell us about rescue tape. Somebody's wondering, Carol is wondering, what is rescue tape?
Rescue tape is silicone tape. It's you'll note that it has plastic, but I don't have any at hand. It has plastic in it as it's on the roll. So when you peel it off, you have to peel off the plastic, and then it sticks to itself and fuses. So it's really good for leaky coolant hoses, things like that. It's pretty interesting stuff.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Cool. Well, should we jump into the questions? Do you have anything else you want to wrap up?
Yep, sure. I just wanted to kind of point the camera over my bike here and just give you a kind of a rundown of all you have to do is pop the seat off of your own motorcycle. Here we go. Pop the seat off of your own motorcycle and just poke around. There is no harm in just figuring out what's going on in here. Um, a lot of things are covered in plastic these days. This is a relatively new bike, so it's hard to tell what's what, but this is the battery. You see the negative terminal, positive terminal. These are all your fuses right in here, and this bike uses this teeny tiny fuses. Um, and everything else you can follow. So this is your ABS unit because these are all the brake brake lines. Um, and anytime I rewire anything, I always label all the wires. So you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but light colored electrical tape and a Sharpie, and I know exactly what wires go to what.
Love that. That's awesome.
We have all made mistakes and broken stuff, myself included. There's no harm in opening stuff up and kind of just seeing what's going on. Get familiar with your own bike and where everything is. And then even if you can't fix your own bike on the road, if you know where everything is on your bike, you can help somebody else help you.
I love that. Awesome. Awesome. Let's go back to a couple questions from from the chat. There was one a while back of when we were talking about chains and how important is it to lube your chain or not?
That's religion. Um, I I'm definitely a proponent of lubing a chain. I want to make it last as long as possible, and I want it to be reliable for as long as possible. So if you don't lube your chain, um, it will either work just fine because you are not in an area where you get any salt on the roads or any rain, and you never ride through any kind of dirt or dust. Um, Anything that gets into the chain and onto the X rings or the O rings is going to create friction and friction is going to get those destroy all those rubber bits, and then when the rubber bits are destroyed, all your lubrication goes away, and when your lubrication goes away, your chain eats itself. So I would say clean and lube your chain is one of the best things you can do for bike maintenance.
Awesome. How about the question just popped up, lubing without cleaning?
Lube without clean, but clean every once in a while. So I lube my chain every 500 miles ish, and I'll clean it every couple of thousand. I
I love
use
that.
WD-40 to clean the chain and then actual chain wax to lube it. Remember, everybody, that WD-40 is not a lubricant.
But good for cleaning. Super good
Okay
for
for
cleaning.
cleaning, great for cleaning.
I love that. Okay, and then back to our batteries. This was an interesting question. How many accessories can be added, amps, without overdoing the battery output? Like, can you ever plug too many
Yep.
functions and accessories into your battery?
Yes. Yes. So that varies by bike. So I can't tell you. You need to do your own math. You need to figure out what your bike's output is and also what those accessories draw. So I had a 2008 KLR and I ran heated gloves, a heated jacket, and heated grips all at once because I was riding in December in New Hampshire. And I noticed that at night, when I had my turn signal on, the light would dim every time the turn signal came on. The headlight would dim. So I took that as a clue that I was overdoing it and I cut that out. So every time I came to a stop from then on, I turned all my heated gear off so that it would idle without killing the battery. An easy way to do that is to install a voltmeter so that you can actually see in real time what your battery is doing.
I love that. That's so cool. I mean, it's so tempting to just plug absolutely everything in, right? You want to run your heated gear, you want to run your
Yeah.
GPS, you want to be charging your phone, you want to make sure you have an additional SAE to plug in your pump.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
We have so much stuff to recharge. Yeah.
totally. How about any fun tips and tricks? Not, I know there's a lot of shaft drive girls out there, but we're getting a lot of chain questions, which makes me think
Yes.
we have a lot
Yep.
of chain drive girls out there. Any tips and tricks for successfully adjusting and tensioning your chain?
Yep. That one that I just showed you, own your own chain tool. So adjusting a chain, there's no shortcut to adjusting your chain. You need to loosen up the axle and then do the chain adjuster things. So this guy. This is one of my, so I'm just rolling around on my stool in here. So this is a Motion Pro chain adjuster tool. Um, you loosen this up and put it on top of the sprocket. You might need to remove your chain guard to do it. And it is, it'll go no matter which side your chain is on. I know some BMWs have the chain on the other side. And then this shaft will go along the chain. And then you can see, look down it. And if this shaft, which is aligned with your sprocket, is also aligned with your chain, you know your chain is straight. And if this shaft goes off to the side, then you know that the chain is not straight. And a straight chain is a happy chain and it won't wear out as fast. So these
Love
guys.
that. Awesome. I think we just need to make sure that we put a list of all these fun tools and tips in a blog post so that everybody can have access to them all the time. I mean, there's
Yeah.
just so many fun things here.
You can replace your own chain. It's not hard. This is a DID chain tool. It comes with fantastic instructions and it's pretty easy to use. Um, this is what I use to replace my chains all the time. Uh, don't try to use this to push out a rivet without grinding the rivet off. So you need this, you need a 19 inch and a 26 inch, I think, 27 inch, 27 millimeter uh, wrenches to use it, and a grinder to get the heads of those pins off.
Love that. DIY, baby.
Yeah.
DIY. I love it. Let's see. Martha's got a good question right here. What extra bike parts slash mechanical supplies do you carry with you on a multi-day trip? Like, how much extra stuff are you bringing along?
Yeah, that's this toolkit, right? So let's see. I have a full set of sockets and a 3/8 inch socket, 3/8 inch an extension, all these wrenches that are 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And adjustable because you never know. Sometimes you need two of the same, especially when a mirror comes loose and goes flopping around. A bunch of Allen keys, at least two tire pressure gauges because I have had them just you put it on the tire and it just goes whoop, off into the distance. I have fuses, a couple of lengths of wire, cotter pins, the aforementioned cotter pins, um, Allen keys, as well as a set of Allen sockets because those are super useful. Um, a set of picks. These are these are really like you don't understand how useful they are until you have them when you need them. A tiny little screwdriver. This guy with a bunch of different bits in it. A Sharpie because Sharpie. Pair of scissors. Sharpie mostly because I used to be an EMT and every once in a while you have to write something on somebody's forehead. We don't want to think about that though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my toolkit. Zip ties. Yeah. And a couple of random bolts that I have left in there because you never know. Oh, your spark plug wrench socket, just in case. Yeah, that's my toolkit.
I love that. I also would add to that because many of us spend a lot of time on dirt all the time. I always keep a front tube with me because I can put it in the front and I can use it in the back in a pinch, even if I'm running tube type tire or tubeless tires for like a holy smokes emergency where you absolutely need to get out of a situation. A big
Yeah,
21-inch tube, you can put that in a 19-inch wheel and get yourself a little
yeah,
bit of lift to get you out of where you are. I would always say at the very least have all the tools you need to take off and remove your front and rear tire, especially if you're running tube tires. Because the only
definitely.
way you can do
Definitely.
your repair is to take that wheel physically off of the bike, get that tube out, put a fresh one in, or put a patch on it and put it back in. So, and you said this too, Kate. I mean, there's nothing like spending time practicing these skills in the calm and comfort of your own
Right,
driveway, as opposed
right.
to like on the side of the road with night creeping in on you. So,
A place where you can leave things disassembled and it's okay.
totally. Totally. Awesome, ladies. Last chance to drop. Oh, let's see. Hi, Larry says, agreed. How about spoons, tubes, patches, all that stuff? We can put some of our favorite parts of for the Sheet EV team. We'll get Kate to
Yeah,
chime in on this. We'll just put together a post of the stuff that we have in our toolkits, and we'll make sure we get that out too, because everybody has their favorites. And the more you ride and the more you find yourself being self-reliant, the more you're going to want to beef up your toolkit. But like, I always feel like don't have all the tools you need to rebuild the engine if you don't know how to rebuild the engine. Have
right,
the
right.
tools you need to do the things that you want to do. So, and like just those basics, just those basics. Yeah, I love this. We got some favorite tools dropping into the
That's
chat over
awesome.
here. Here's Vicky Johnson's what is that, an old CB up on a flatbed? Oh no, Vicky. I love that. Yeah, roadside repair, having your SOS button on your InReach or on your Zoleo or
Oh,
whatever your
yeah.
emergency communicator is too. A serious breakdown far away that you can't fix. I mean, that's a worthy use of that SOS button. So, Kate, any last tips you'd like to leave us with before we wrap up today?
I just want to remind you that you're human and humans build and fix motorcycles. And one of my favorite viral videos goes, "How hard can it be? Men do it."
I love it. I love it. It's awesome. It really is all approachable stuff. And it's so fun, and you feel like a rock star when you actually fix
Right,
something, even the little
right.
things.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kate. This has been so cool. Really,
Thank
really
you for having me.
appreciate, yeah, really appreciate you being here and sharing some tips and tricks. Let's make sure we do this again sometime. I feel like we could do an entire thing just on tires and final drive sometime. I think that would
Oh,
be,
let's do a deep dive into brakes. I'm ready.
yes. Oh, we're also looking for a suspension deep dive in case you're a pro in that department.
Totally, totally.
Awesome, awesome. All right, before we draw the winner of the cruise tools kit, just got to put a little plug for the She ADV supporter program. This is going gangbusters. I'm so excited to see all of you um show up on here and join us and support us. Those few dollars go a long way. And it gets you some screaming deals on things, which is really exciting. So we've got this rider map that's developing, and these are all of the different women who are joining the supporter program so you can connect up and ride with other ladies. That's me right there. Come visit. And then the red ones on this map here, those are our coaches and some of our key gals. We're also doing a really cool virtual coaching thing right now. So these are small group virtual coaching sessions. I think we have one coming up with Cassie. I think we have one coming up with Shal. It's something we're going to be rolling out, and this will be small focused groups with the questions of your choice, basically one-on-one in small groups with some really awesome female trainers. So if you have questions or things that you want to work on or things that you want to have a one-on-one conversation, these coaching sessions will be made available to you through the supporter program, which is super exciting. And then some killer discounts. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but like we've got Cardo over there, we've got BDR, we've got Moscow, we've got Giant Loop. I know we've got Rogue Moto and Grit and Cyclops and all kinds of really awesome discounts on there. So if you are looking to kit out your bike, getting some sweet discounts on some sweet gear through the She ADV supporter program is a great way to do it.